Attention Talking Simpsons listeners, we have a special mini-series just for you.
We're going through the entire first season of King of the Hill, and you can only hear it if you're a $5 and up patron at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons.
We're giving the Talking Simpsons treatment to all 13 episodes of King of the Hill's first season, and if you want a free sample, you'll find the first episode available for free in the Talking Simpsons feed. Patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. It's the only place you'll find the first season of Talk King of the Hill.
Made you go click, 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 click. It's real easy, man.
Cartoons from present and the past. Every week will be an animated bash. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! Maybe a short but mostly shows. We'll talk, we'll analyze, exploring as we go. What a cartoon! What a cartoon! What a cartoon!
Hello everybody and welcome to What a Cartoon, where grappling hooks can do anything. I'm your host, undercover tea waitress Bob Mackey, and this is an audio exploration of every cartoon ever. Who is here with me today?
Henry Gilbert, and talking that much must be tiring.
And who do we have on the line?
Hi, it's your friendly neighborhood Arab Aziz, once again.
And today's episodes are the Emara episodes 1 and 2.
Well, I try my best.
So back on the show, we have Aziz, who you probably heard a little more than a year ago on our Dexter's Lab episode, the first episode that we recorded of What a Cartoon. So Aziz has brought us very good luck.
Yeah, that's an honor.
Yeah, welcome back, Aziz. You're one of our premiumist patrons. You're back in the mix of the premium patrons. You were quite I think that spot was open for like a few minutes, and then just boom, you were on it.
I'm so passionate about Emara, which is, I'm going to answer your question, why did you choose it? I wanted to just make sure that this show is talked about because we have this resurgence of creators, like independent creators in the Middle East, and they're being funded from, it's being taken seriously by various government agencies, non-profit agencies, and it's fantastic. Like, I'm very happy about that stuff, like animation, film, video games. One of the initiatives that like non-profit agencies want to have is that to expose our culture to a worldwide audience, like the West, obviously, South America, and then like even East to East Asia and Southeast Asia, maybe even to the land down under.
Yeah, without this request, I would not have known about the show because outside of things that are made in America, Canada, and Japan, I don't know a lot of animation outside of that.
Yeah. In America, international animation isn't that well known. Well, and also you wanted to time this too for we are currently in Ramadan at the time of this recording. Am I right about that? Yes.
Yeah. Now Hank is I've known Hank for years, and he's surprisingly very well versed in the Islamic thing. Why is this agenda coming out of you?
Hey, whoa! What do you?
I'm joking.
I tried to learn more about it. I guess it started with wrestling because some of my favorite pro wrestlers are
are they all villains?
Less so now.
Okay,
less
good.
so now.
No, that's Bob. True story. That's how me and Hank connected at first place. Is that I found this weird clip of a Kuwaiti dubbed sketch show, and I just sent it to Hank, and then that's how we connected, and that's how we started talking about like my culture and how we consume pop culture, like in the Middle East, and how we talk about it, and it's how we interpret it. Like I even talked to him about how we like consume How I Met Your Mother with a fever, and how that engulfed our idea about romance, which is crazy,
Wow. You live in Saudi Arabia. I mean, in the Middle East in general, though, there's like a long tradition of appreciating animation, and like definitely anime got localized over there quite a lot, right?
I mean, yeah. I think in the episode I was on Dexter's Lab, I talked about this channel. I don't know if you guys remember it, Space Tune. Yeah, there was a lot of like half of it was dubbing shows from the West, and half of it is dubbing shows from Japan and the Eastern Korea. Like the most popular show is called I forgot the Japanese name. I always try to remember it, but in Arabic it's called Emara. It's like about space pirates. So I know it's appealing to literally everybody. Yeah, it's a space pirate opera, and it's great. And that's the reason why you see a lot of people are more inclined towards anime and manga books, more so towards than comics. Like I worked at a hobby shop, and I've noticed the manga books just go quickly. Literally, I'm not joking. The shop has been open for like 6 years now, and there's a couple of comic books that have been sold since day one. That's how disinterested the public is
Oh my
in buying
God.
comic books. Yeah, they love the MCU, but comic books, they don't care.
Well, it's funny the MCU is so big there though too. It's interesting. Well,
Oh yeah, it's completely like Endgame. All of the tickets first weekend, every single country sold out, 100%.
Wow. Well, so yeah, in Emara kind of follows from both of those things. Like it's very informed by like American superheroes, but also like Japanese magical girl anime too. I really get the feel of that in the show. I think it debuted just last year, and yeah, I had not heard of it until this. And there's a little bit out there
Yeah.
of a chat about the show, and I think I'd be interested to see if they'd get more episodes. And yeah, you also connected us with the creator of the show too. So thank you very much for that, Aziz.
I mean, that's no problem of mine. It's I think I mentioned this before, but it's like the creators in the Middle East all somehow know each other so, through some weird web mechanism. Like I go into film and then I see people who know my friend who is a famous Twitter, like has a large Twitter following because of his comic book knowledge, and then he knows other people through their anime knowledge, and then he knows other people because of their cosplay group, and it's so weird, and that's how through them I found out about Emara, and it's very interesting. It's it's very support. What I love about the creator industry is that because we're so independent, and for years nobody cared about them. It's like there's a lot of support behind it, and there's a lot of love behind it. So it feels different, you know.
So there's not a lot of information about the show in the English language. So I think after we release this episode, we will be second to TV tropes in English language Emara knowledge.
Yeah, well, I definitely get the feel that like in the U.S. too, you know, creator like the animation industry in the U.S. is still a very like closely knit group, as it usually is in most creative fields. But then I would imagine, you know, in the Middle East, it's an even smaller group of people right now, and so it would lead to even more like the people who are doing it would know each other even better. And also, yes, pre SJW problem here, pre SJW spiel here by me. If I mispronounce anything or if I get something wrong, like on or say anything wrong, please forgive us. This is still and it's almost impossible for us to. We are so American and in the American viewpoint that sometimes that leads to mistakes.
We went through the American school system. They did not expect us to leave our counties.
Yeah.
So
look, I'm sorry. Like, if you mess up, I'm gonna just rage quit this podcast and go cry in my room. Now I just find it funny that I honestly don't know if it's because I saw it on Veep, and I did not know that people do not know that the numbers used like around the world it's an Arabic numeral, and a lot of people there's fear mongering about that. I thought it was like I saw it on Veep. I'm like, haha, funny joke, and then it turns out people actually don't know that shit, and I'm like, that's very interesting, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of amazing. Yeah, I saw a funny tweet like that too, or somebody on Twitter was making a joke of like a poll: should we outlaw? Should we teach Arabic numbers in school? And people were just like, no.
It's like some kind of Common Core math.
The ignorance in America is pretty astounding. I mean, probably for most Americans, they couldn't point to the UAE on a map. I don't think.
And I was one of them.
Hey, I didn't have to. I didn't Google.
Hey man, just say this. Dubai. Dubai is it's a very wonderful city.
Yes, but I mean that's something we'll talk about it when we get to the episode. But it's a perfect setting for superheroes to fly by skyscrapers. Like it's a really good skyline for that. So thanks to you, Aziz. We instead of doing our normal history segment, we're actually just going to chat with Fatma Al-Mahari about the series and how it got created, and then we'll come back and chat about the episode more with Aziz.
We have the creator on the line right here, Fatma Al-Mary. She is the creator of Emara, and instead of us doing research on the show, we can just ask her directly.
Yeah. Welcome.
It's very convenient.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks, Fatma. And you're coming to us all the way from the UAE, right?
Yep, from Abu Dhabi,
wow,
the capital.
Well, welcome. We, me and Bob, we watched this at the request of your colleague Aziz, and we really enjoyed it. It's a really fun show.
That's awesome. I'm glad you guys to watch it. I didn't know him personally before he reached out to me about the podcast.
It's a really fun show. So I'm curious, I guess to start, like, where did you begin as an artist?
I've been drawing for forever, but I never planned to go into animation because there's not really an industry for that kind of thing over here. I always planned to go into comics when I got older, but at some point they opened up an animation school here, which was called the Cartoon Network Animation Academy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know Cartoon Network had opened up a branch there in the in
me neither.
Abu Dhabi. What were your comic book influences? I'm a big comic fan.
Well, as a kid, I read a lot of like Garfield and Calvin and Hobbes. And we had this one magazine that was called, I think it was European. I don't think it was American. I think it was called Monster Allergies.
Oh.
It was translated to Monster Allergies. It was like a couple of years after that, they made it into a cartoon. It's really, really good. And and a lot of manga.
Cool. Yeah, I was curious as to what it was like growing up, where you grew up in terms of, the animation you absorbed. I'm sure we had to say a lot of the same shows, but probably a lot of different shows too.
For us growing up, we actually had more anime in our childhood than Western cartoons because they started, like when they first started introducing animation in Arabic, they were all Arabic dubs of Japanese cartoons. So things like that are like super, super old. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard of like an old anime called Sinbad, or there's one called Sandy Bell, but I'm not sure if that's the...
Oh, yeah. I've heard of Sandy Bell. Yeah.
Oh, it's called the same thing in English.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first slice of life anime series.
Yeah, so those were like some of the first animations that we got. And for the longest time growing up, most of us who grew up in that era of anime before Western cartoon reached us, we all thought that these were like Arabic cartoons. They're dubbed in Arabic. The music was also turned into Arabic. Everything about it was Arabic. And then like Sinbad, we started with Sinbad. We're like, of course we made this. This is obviously Arabic. When my generation grew up, we realized, oh no, that's not how. It's actually Japanese. And Captain Majid is actually called Captain Tsubasa.
Right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It was like a culture shock a little bit growing up that, we don't have any actual legit like Arabic cartoons. We have like a really good dubbing industry as a result of that, but we did not have, and I think still we don't have a real animation industry in not just the UAE but in the region as the whole, in the Middle East.
Yeah, Bob and me, we had a similar upbringing with just in here that like we'd see Voltron and we wouldn't know it was Japanese, or we'd see these other Japanese series that were dubbed into English that they weren't presented as from Japan. You just learned about them growing up. I didn't know until about 4 or 5 years ago how big anime was in the Arabic speaking world until I looked into this. The series Future Boy Conan is not available in America. It never has been. And
it's huge here.
Yeah.
It's huge.
I feel like every country but America had way more anime in the 80s and 90s than we did.
We had a strange censoring of Conan where, they would like, if the girl from Conan, when she would be wearing like something like super short, they would like, if it's animated or if it's not animated, they would like kind of give her like pants.
Oh, they would just draw pants over it.
Or if there were any scenes that were like a bit inappropriate or showed like girls in like too short of an outfit, even if it wasn't portrayed by them to be in this like, kind of like ecchi kind of way, they would still like kind of cut that part out, but they would leave in all like the violence and like the decapitation or bloody shots that would all stay in Conan. They would just remove anything or most of the stuff involving the girl characters and just leave all the bloody things.
I think we had sex and violence removed for the most part.
Yeah, we lost both those. It was just such a that was when it really hit me. And Aziz, our friend, he alerted me to that too when I was trying to find, English subtitled versions of Conan, and I was finding way more in Arabic than in English that were available. It was a surprise to me. You worked at the Cartoon Network or interned at the Cartoon Network Abu Dhabi?
I interned at Cartoon Network Studios Arabia in like 2015, I think, early 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, I entered there for it, and then after that, I worked on a few like freelance shorts, and then eventually I got the opportunity to make Emara at Eating Stars, studio I helped found in Dubai.
Nice.
And so I really wanted to do Emara.
So how did Emara come into being?
So Emara was a story that I started pitching early 2015, but we don't really have studios here you can go and pitch to. We don't have that kind of industry format. We barely have an industry. So if most people who want to start anything in like animation or in film or whatever, they will like literally go to like random like companies or whatever potential investors and just try their luck there. Like they'll go as far as like going to like government entities trying to pitch their project. So for Emara, I was able to get the funding for it, but it wasn't that like I didn't get anything that big. So I could either make like a really, really, really good like 20-minute pilot, and hopefully with that I'll be able to like get a series funded, or I take the budget that I have and I spread it across 5-6 mini episodes. And before Imara, there were actually I think about like 2 different anime styled cartoons, or I don't know. There's this huge debate about whether they're anime or not. But I'm just gonna say that they're anime for the sake of conversation. Got as far as doing the pilot, but it never got picked up afterwards, even though the animation was great, the story had a lot of potential, the characters looked great. So I just wanted to be a bit realistic and kind of learn from those lessons I saw from other creatives and try my luck actually making more than one episode. And just make a couple of shorter episodes, call it a mini web series or something. That's what we ended up with Imara.
And the series definitely has like this kind of feel of superhero and kind of magical girl style to it. Like and the action plays out so great. Like, was that having an action packed kind of show? Was that important to you?
Yeah, because I like action-packed shows. You know, I grew up watching like Ben 10 and Megas XLR. Aside from like all the anime, like I really like Cardcaptor Sakura. But I'm also a big Astro Boy fan. So
okay.
even with like making my own magical girl, I wanted to have that kind of like those kind of like retro colors from like Astro Boy and that same kind of aesthetic or a similar aesthetic.
Yeah, I can totally see that. And when you mentioned Astro Boy, I was like, oh, with the especially like her arm transformations
And the rocket legs too.
Yeah, the rocket legs. Yeah. I totally can feel
Yeah.
that.
Like we're very like unashamed of like our like weeb influences in the cartoon.
Yeah, I like the universal quality of anime. Kind of can go across borders with this with your series too. Yeah.
So what was the production like in terms of just how long it took to make all of these episodes? Because it seemed like you have a rather small team based on the credits.
Yeah, it was a small team, and we worked on it for about 1.5 years.
Okay.
Wow.
It took, it was a nightmare, but I loved the team that I was working with. They were great. I learned a lot from, especially my art director, Ahmed Beiruti. He's awesome. He's working in Germany now. My producer, Mariam Al-Aturi. We were dealt a difficult hand in the kind of... I also overestimated myself personally on the kind of quality that I wanted to produce and how very demanding this style of animation. Well, animation in general is demanding, but with like a small team, it was hard. It was hard, but it was great. I learned a lot.
Yeah. After seeing some of the action scenes, I was surprised just how small the team was, and I had to imagine you worked very hard on this. So congratulations.
Thank you. We had amazing artists with us. We had amazing animators. More importantly, we had people that really wanted Imara to succeed and really gave their all to the production.
Yeah, the action, like some of the like the punches just have like such impact, or the explosions do, or just like the camera moves too. They're just so it's so ambitious, especially like in digital animation. Like you don't always see that. So that was really impressive just from like the first episode, or straight from the opening.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I'm actually not that big of a fan of the first episode. 'Cause I had a lot of issues with it, but I'm very grateful that you think so.
Aziz had talked with us too about how it's in, English and formal and informal Arabic. I got the feel that the lip sync was done to the English voice track. Was that right? Or
Yeah, we did it in English first because we had non-Arabic speakers working with us, and it would have been a struggle to lip sync to a language you don't really understand, especially Arabic. It is, I mean, I'm very proud like to be an Arabic speaker and all of that, but it is not the easiest language to mouth, no less lip sync,
yeah. I really love like Emara's design. Like, was that how did her design come together, and her like just coloring and the use of the hijab with like a cape and everything is such a cool concept to me.
Oh, thanks. I did the original design for Emara. It pretty much stayed the same aside from the boots. The boots originally were these like shorter brown boots, but then we turned them into like these high white boots. And the colors that I used for her are inspired by the UAE flag. She was very easy to design. Like she came out pretty much like there wasn't that much of a difference in her initial design. But Labian, the other character the other main character in the show, he was a nightmare because we didn't know what we were doing with him. Because we kind of gave her all the colors, and then anytime we gave him any kind of coloring, it just clashed next to her.
I see.
Yeah, but I didn't want to have to change her just to make him look better. So eventually, like after going through a lot of like costume and character designs with our previous art director, because we had a change of art direction from episode 1 to the rest of them. I just like sat down one day and just scribbled Labian with this new design, and it worked. It just needed a while to like cook up before it came out.
Well, yeah, the flag. I was going to ask about the colors because it definitely. It only hit me in my second viewing of the first episode when her clothes are all stacked up in the closet and they were on top of each other. That's when the coloring really hit me. Like, oh yeah, that's the UAE flag. I mean, it reminded me in a way of Captain America is red, white, and blue. It's similar coloring. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also was curious too with Sultan and Moza. Like I noticed they both have prosthetics, which is you don't see a lot with many superheroes. Like I was curious what the choice was there.
I mean, I definitely wanted him to. I wanted a character that was in a wheelchair for sure. Most of the things that I incorporated in the story, I wanted to mostly came about because I wanted to represent something or someone or different kinds of people. So I definitely, for prosthetics, that part of the reason, as well as how it is part of the story, it incorporates into the story as part of their superpower is that they do have prosthetics.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what were the challenges of writing a show both for a specific audience and also an international audience at the same time?
I guess the biggest difficulty would be that I was the only writer.
That's not hard.
Nobody else on the team was big on writing. I mean, they were great with giving me feedback, but yeah, I had to juggle most, if not all, the writing. Because the story, I feel like when you write a story, you kind of decide from the beginning if you want to, like, how culturally involved you want to have the setting be. For me, I didn't want it to be, like, very, very, like, too obvious where they are, where they're from, who they are. I didn't want it to look like one of those tourism ads you see when you first get here. You're like, oh, my name is Moza. I am Emirati. I wear the hijab. I used it as more of a setting to decorate the story with. For me, juggling the cultural aspects and the religious aspects of the story with the characters and everything was not really that much of a struggle, because I knew what the main story was, and I knew how to get from point A to point Z, and then the cultural aspects would just decorate the setting, if not be carried by the characters, like visually. So I didn't feel like I needed to explain anything at any point, like directly. I feel like I didn't want to like disrespect the audience and like having to explain too much. I figured they'd get it, and whatever they didn't get, they just Google.
That's a good stance. I like that. A last question I'd ask is like, what do you have coming up next? Like now, what's up next for you in your career?
I have no idea. I guess I've been consulting at least on an upcoming animated movie that's being produced in Abu Dhabi, and it's called Cats Away. And I can send you a trailer for that because it looks pretty dope.
Oh, cool.
It does, yeah. I actually saw it doing research for this. I saw a little clip of that.
Oh, you did? Awesome.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
Oh, it looks really cool. I mean, I love anthropomorphic cats any way I can take them, and then and there's just a really universal quality to cats too. That's what I like about it for an animated feature.
I'm more hype. I'm a fan of like cat characters and cartoons and things like that. But I'm more hyped for the kind of retro aesthetics.
Yeah.
Because it takes place in like old school UAE, before it got too glamorous. So I'm glad that they're going to show that to the audience. Because for Emara, we showed like, present day, Burj Khalifa, all that jazz. Mm-hmm. They had a fight scene in Dubai Mall, which is like one of the biggest malls in the world. After I saw Cats Away and I saw the trailer and I saw how good it looked, like especially with the aesthetic, like with the retro aesthetics that they used for the UAE, I was like, dang, maybe I should have like set Emara in that kind of setting because it looks so nice. But also then like all the mechanical stuff would not make as much sense.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I do like seeing Emara. I think it's a really cool hero shot in several episodes, seeing them fly by the Dubai skyline, because it's such a defining thing for American superheroes to fly by like the New York skyline, so to see that equivalent, I think really works for Emara.
Oh, thanks. We tried.
Well, awesome. We'll definitely look forward to that. Thanks so much, Fatma, for telling us all this stuff.
And best of luck to you.
Yes.
Thank you guys so much for having me.
Welcome to the break for Emara. This is Henry, your podcast magical girl.
Hey, it's Bob Mackey, and I'm secretly anime.
And welcome to the break here. Thanks so much for listening, and a big thank you to both our guests, Fatma El Mehari, as well as our premium patron, Aziz, for picking out this episode to do during the holy month of Ramadan. So thanks. We try to be as inclusive as possible on this podcast, so that really helped us out. And I think we learned a whole lot about the Middle Eastern world that we weren't aware of beforehand.
We did, and I hope our listeners did, and learned about Emara as well.
Yes, yeah, and I hope you folks are enjoying it. And if you'd like to support us, not unlike Aziz does on Patreon, you can just become a subscriber at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons.
Yes, and if you sign up at the $5 level, you'll have access to everything at that level we've done for the past 2 years of this Patreon, and that includes exclusive miniseries like Talking Critic, Talking Futurama, and Talk King of the Hill, our newest miniseries, which is our first season treatment of King of the Hill. At that $5 level, we also have things like interviews. I think around 20 interviews at this point with Simpsons writers and other animation folks.
Yes.
And we also have end-of-season wrap-ups, monthly community community podcast, and so much more is happening there. I would say at this point, probably well over 100 podcasts and more to come. So if you sign up now, you get access to all those immediately.
Yes.
Quit your job and listen to them.
And if you really love our What a Cartoon podcast, but wish we went in depth into a feature film that is animated each month, you can hear that for $10 and up a month, and you'll get access not only to our monthly What a Cartoon Movie podcast, where we cover things like the recent episode Aladdin that we just did. I think you'll really enjoy that, of the 1992 Disney hit. But a ton before that, you'll get access to our entire back catalog of What a Cartoon movies: Batman Mask of the Phantasm, Kiki's Delivery Service, Akira, a Goofy movie, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, and The Secret of Nim. And you can only hear that if you are a $10 and up patron at patreon.com/TalkingSimpsons. Totally worth it. We give you your money's worth there. So now why don't we head back to Dubai and learn more about Emara, the first episode.
ما سر إمارة ماذا خلف ذاك القناع من هي إمارة صاحبة القلب الشجاع هي حبي لنجدة كل ضعيف فدليلك هو الضمير هيا لبي النداء فقوتك قلب طيب وعقل منير لن يثني إمارة الخوف من الصعاب لن يرضي إمارة الظلم أو الإرهاب هي حبي لنجدة كل ضعيف فدليلك هو الضمير هيا لبي النداء فقوتك قلب طيب وعقل منير إمارة.
Okay, we're back, and now let's chat about Emara. Really, let's focus a lot on episode 1 because, yeah, Aziz, you have a lot of secrets to share from the Arabic version, it sounds like. So I'm curious. But the whole 5 episodes that are on the Emara YouTube page are really good. They cover basically the equivalent of like 22-minute episodes of stuff. And especially if you like seeing, like a giant fight with an Ava style monster, then you'll get that in the last episode. It's a good payoff to the first season, I guess you'd call it.
And these are all on YouTube for free legally, and they're each
Yep.
about like 8 to 9 minutes long, excluding the opening and ending.
I really, just stylistically, I really like the show a lot. Like, it has
Me
so many
too.
like visual flair to it.
This will mean nothing to most people, although if you're listening to an animation podcast, it might. I will never. So if there's an artist, you should never say your stuff looks like this. It's very insulting, and they don't want that. But I will say, because we're not talking to her right now, this show reminds me of a mix of Studio Trigger and Augenblick Studios. So there you go. Think about that.
That's-
Put that in your noodle. Augenblick Studios. I think their best thing they've done is the first season of Super Jail.
Oh, yeah.
So just the
Wow.
way things move. And
Yeah.
very Studio Trigger too. So if those two things combined to make its own thing, that would be that.
Well, I mean, what I like about the show is that, well, I'm gonna talk about a lot about film, and
Sure.
I'm not an animation guy, like if you guys remember. But like what I like animation. But what I like about this animation specifically is that in film, there's 2 terms. There's called like word logic and emotional logic. Like word logic, where something has to make sense, like 100% beat by beat, and emotional logic, where characters they don't act logically, but they feel like they're acting logically. So the animation here is not 100% real, or even the environment is 100% real. It's always exaggerated, but it's always for the emotional punch to the gut. It's like it feels like every frame, like honest to God, every frame of the show, I'd like to take a snapshot of it and just hang off my wall, because it's just it feels so alive,
Yeah, there's so much like character expression through animation. Like, it's also interesting that it definitely is lip synced well to English.
Really
too.
well,
Like
yeah.
they definitely feels like they were animating to the English lip sync, and so the characters just get so much like acting through it, just through like saying words and how they say them. Like outfits, especially like Emara and or Moza and Maitha, the mother. Like they really act quite a lot and get just so much character through them.
You talked about is that difference between Arabic and English is that personally I think that's a success of the localization team where they actually wrote dialogue that fits the mood. Like one of the problems that a lot of people that I notice face around the world is that sometimes when they do subtitles is that they do it literally. They don't
yeah.
take I think there's a huge discussion about it in like translating anime and subbing it, subtitles and translating it either directly or localizing it. And some people have a problem with that if I'm not mistaken. And I'm not gonna say who, but you guys know who it is. But anyways, so for me, I loved what they did is that the dialogue in English is not beat for beat exact translation. It's like a localization. It's like I wouldn't even think of it translating that way. So I'm just saying it's a success for the writing team. Like for example, in Arabic, it says like in the beginning scene where the mother says, "Oh, they're probably exhausted from talking too much. I'll put them out of their misery," and that's funny in English, but in Arabic is like, "Wow, they're just talking too much. I better cut off their tongues." But each one of them it's funny in Arabic
more
because
intense.
violence like that in Arabic it's funnier that way because it's not violent, it's like it's just how people talk, I'm gonna say it in but it's like it's something that just happens naturally. But when you say it in English, it doesn't, like I'm gonna cut their tongues, it's like what, it doesn't make sense contextually. Does that make
Yeah, it sounds too harsh for her a little bit in English, or it comes off as more intense than we
so
expect.
when you say I'm gonna put them out of their misery, it gives you the exact same emotional beat, but in a completely different dialogue line. And for me, I'm like, I honest to God just stood up and clapped because that's a successful writing team on your hands, and that means like your audience and you're trying to appeal to them. And there's also differences between the informal and formal Arabic, where informal Arabic there's like a lot of specific societal insults. Like at the very beginning, it's like, oh, she couldn't find a job, so her mom gave her a job. But in formal Arabic, it's like, oh, she only found this job. So it's a very interesting. It's a very interesting difference because, like I said, it's like the formal Arabic. I think if I'm not mistaken, they're trying to harken back to like how you felt when watching Space Tune dubs. Is that when you saw it, he didn't like. There's not a lot of societal specific references. It's because they wanted to make it timeless, which I think, for personally, what Emara did in the formal Arabic side, they made it timeless, and I think that's incredible.
So what is the difference between like formal and informal? Like, is that what you'd say like at a meeting at work, you'd be speaking informal and just informal at home, or is it more like a dialect used differently across the Middle East?
It's okay. So the only explanation that I can give is like, how in Japan is that the way you talk in not only in different people but in different circumstances.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's not how it is in the Middle East. It's that like formal Arabic is not used a lot except for like between like me talking to another person, we don't use it for formal Arabic, but like letters issued by like my work, for example, to the bank. Like official documentation, like speeches. Sometimes speeches are said a bit of mix between formal and informal Arabic. That when leaders, do their speeches at UN or whatever. But like I said, formal Arabic is mostly used as a very official, strict business. But informal Arabic is how you talk. And then after that, you also have the dialect, and which is one of the most interesting things that they did is that different characters have different nationalities based on their dialect. Like in the first episode, at the very end, you have an Egyptian and a person from Levant, the area where Lebanon and Palestine are. So it's a very interesting choice where you get different accents and you just showcase the talent.
That's interesting.
Because because when you talk in formal Arabic, there's a lot of negligible differences except how you pronounce the words. Like in Egypt, instead of saying j, they say g. Yeah, that's one of the things in Emirates. Instead of saying j, they say yeah. But like I said, in formal Arabic, the words themselves don't change except how you pronounce them.
Interesting.
But in the informal Arabic, it's like the whole completely different dialogue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. We could be getting too off topic with language, but I'm really interested in knowing the audiences. Like, would there be a reason why you would prefer to watch the formal formal version over the informal version. If maybe it would the case be just like that's just what I'm used to hearing. That's the kind of Arabic I speak. So I'm more comfortable listening to this dub.
From what I've heard from people that I know personally, they don't care either way. But listening to the formal Arabic one gives a sort of a nostalgia feel to the old
Okay.
cartoons. But informal, like it feels fun just seeing how they play the dialogue, especially because the UAE, like even though they're our neighbors, it's like it's completely different dialect, and I enjoy listening to people from other regions, especially from the same country. Like it's a very interesting mix, like because you know how in Hollywood portrays there's a natural U.S. dialect, and then everything else is an accent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like Boston versus Alabama versus
Texas.
Yeah.
And that's how sometimes TV is portrayed, that there's a natural Arabic dialect, especially in the Gulf region, and then any other accent is off base. So that's why I enjoy seeing like Emara when they play with that. It's because you never see those dialects spoken out loud except in region-specific shows. You know, it's just great. I love it personally.
Two examples popped into my head of a similar English language thing. So they're two very bad cartoons, but Stressed Eric and Dougal,
Yes.
where it's just like the characters are speaking English in the UK version, but they're redubbed.
With American English, yeah.
And like also like the Harry Potter books when those were brought over to America, they got rid of all the
All those
British
U's
idioms
and
and
yes, yeah.
calling HP sauce turned that into ketchup, which I'm against.
It's very different HP
Yeah.
sauce and catsup. But okay, yeah. The first episode of Emara has a really cool cold open that is very cutie honey Sailor Moon to me, of just especially the crook design. Like the crooks design are very like classical. Almost they remind me of like DuckTales Beagle Boys kind of.
I wrote down Beagle Boys.
And yeah, there's a great Amara's arrival shot is just a great hero shot of like just a Spider-Man or Batman kind of pose on there. And also they get so creative with the animation. It's funny, we just did My Life as a Teenage Robot, so maybe that was on my brain, but all the moves on her hand, its many transformations like really reminded me of that too. They just have a lot of fun with animating the hand changing into different items. The reaction shots start off just awesome there with the thieves' reactions to their guns being shot out of their hands, like there's some really good like almost Looney Tunes-esque takes there. I like that a lot. And also just the action is handled so well, like her movements, her attacks, like when she gets blasted into the air, like that felt like almost a more live action thing of like you can hear the like air flapping around her costume and everything.
One of the things I noticed about this show is it's very anime, number one. I mean, just look at it. It's very anime. But the technique of cutting frames to sort of evoke more of an impact with action really, really works well in this show. There's not a lot of frames in the fight scenes, but each one is very well drawn for like maximum impact, I think.
Yeah, all the combat just works so well. The opening too has so much cool combat in it. But after she gets blasted away, she then comes back to see them already tied up by some mysterious stranger who beat her to the punch there. That's something like Dobby is always showing up Amara. Like he's got it a little more together than her. After she leaves the crime scene, we get a nice little like kind of intimate moment of Moza hiding her superhero costume, and it's kind of a real like Peter Parker moment. I like that. And also though, when her costume is stacked up like that, that's when it really hit me that it is the colors of the UAE flag, like the red, black, white, and green of it, which I mean, that's Captain America right there. We have like a flag with muscles. So
another flag-based superhero.
I mean, one of the things that I liked is that her costume is basically like incorporating a hijab. So that's cool.
Yeah, I did notice that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very, Amara's costume design in general is so cool. Like you get wearing a hijab, but also it works as a Batman style cloak with a cape. And then two, she's, her body is entirely covered, fitting with the hijab, but it also has all these like accessories and accents to it that also kind of play off the, especially her hat feels like it plays off police, like Abu Dhabi police uniform as well.
I think that was the intention.
A more authority to her character too, even though she's still drawn as a petite young woman, but who packs a powerful punch. And then the OP, the opening. I shouldn't use anime.
People know.
The opening is great. There's just some really great animation there. It was just really interesting to watch an anime style opening set to Arabic. Like that's really. I was even having in the like third or fourth episode watch. I was doing the thing I do with Japanese theme songs where I'm like, I don't know all the words until they say Emara. And that's when I sing
That's the
along.
most important word. That's all you need to know.
But that's one of the things that's like a nostalgic feel is that it's all the same in the English episode, the informal and formal Arabic. It's like the same theme song. It's like it evokes this old style where they sung the theme song. Like nowadays, I don't watch cartoons nowadays, but whenever I catch my sister watching them, is that they just use the same theme from the original cartoon, which I'm like, okay, that's more authentic, but it's like it doesn't feel the same, you know. I'm not saying I'm not gonna be one of those guys like older is better, but I'm just saying is that for me it's nostalgic. That's all I'm saying is that it feels great just watching something. I'm like, childhood memories. It's come bringing back up.
Well, and the opening too has a great mix of like you get action, like a very like when she's fighting the flunkies that all just kind of jump on top of her. They look so extra cartoony, and it reminds me. You mentioned Studio Trigger. The pre-starting of Studio Trigger, the team worked on the Cutie Honey for ADV, and it really gives me the feel of that, like which is great. Like that's I mean, I think there's even like checkerboard backgrounds in some shots in the OP. Also, some of my favorite drawings in it, just there's some great stills that just show you like Moza in really relaxed settings. Like she has a lot of attitude to her, which I like too, that she's not like just a prim and proper girl in like her kind of, my favorite shot is her holding headphones to her head and like kind of shouting at somebody off camera or singing along to a song. It's you can infer a lot from that shot. Well, and you also get to see so many characters in there that like in the opening, you see her and her mom, Maitha. And it really hit me just how like the designs for the hijab wearing characters is so great because like from a design standpoint, it encircles the face. And so it actually like ends up making it like cuter by being a circled face. And,
I never thought of that.
And also like the extra character they can add of having, you know, how much hair pokes out from under with a character and what that says about them as a person. Like Amara's like two little strands of hair is almost, to me, it kind of reminds me of like if you give a character a cowlick in American animation. You know, Maitha has like kind of a long strain of bangs coming out of her front that shows that she's kind of a more free-spirited character, which I like that a lot about Maitha. Like she's kind of my favorite character.
Yeah, she's my favorite character too. Like, it's always the mothers. It's always like that gives the spice to the shows.
Well, yeah, I think too she has such a cool like spunky widower kind of thing. She definitely reminds me of current Aunt May as well.
Too much stuff is about dads. We were just talking about how Detective Pikachu is kind of about dads because every movie has to be about dads. So it's nice to see moms.
It's all dad stuff. I mean, there's some dad vibes in this show too, but
last year was all about missing moms. You know, God of War.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, though that's still every quick divergence on that. Every video game maker, they had a kid and they're like, "What if I was a sad dad?" And so we got a decade of sad dad video games.
People need to know what if I was a sad dad. I think eventually we'll get to a point. I hope we get to a point in history where writers
sad grandpa.
Sad grandpa. Oh man, we need another grandpa movie. But I hope we get to the point in history where young writers grow up with their dads not being ashamed of them, so they don't have to write those movies anymore.
I hope this is just it's that generation working through their poor fathers, and then at least in the.
I mean. To be fair, there's a new wave of coming of age movies where there's no villains.
Yeah,
the villain is you.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, not you, but it's like, oh, it's just your feelings. Just get over them. And it's like the new movie. There's a new movie coming out called Booksmart, and it's like. There's no villain in that movie, and I loved it. That's why I loved it. That's, but anyway, that's I diverged a lot. That's me. I'm the movie guy. I always talk about movies.
The last shot of the OP is a nice tease of the finale villain of the giant monster. Like a good giant monster design there. And when we come back from the opening, they're establishing her secret identity. Now that we've gotten the superhero scene, we got to see her secret identity some. And Moza's casual design is great. I just love her klutziness and how the sleeves kind of hang over her hands too. She gets a lot of cuteness out of that
Yeah,
character.
there's a lot of really good comedic action with her dropping the tea and then
she's-
picking all the things up with the claw.
She's spilling the tea.
Oh boy,
Queen.
that popped into my head. I did not want to say it.
Sorry.
And that's the tea. I'm watching it right now. The tea's on the screen.
But yeah, I like her expressiveness when she talks to, like, oh, like her head kind of bops around a lot. And even there's a great like chibi reaction shot of when the ladies fake compliment her. She's like, oh, thanks, I'm just trying my best. Like it actually reminded me a lot of like Steven Universe too, in her kind of cutesy design there. As she walks away, that's you quoted that scene earlier. The patrons who are being very patronizing to her of just like, oh, you look so cute. Can you believe this girl? Like, and that feels like a very universal bitchiness towards waitstaff when your back is turned.
I didn't mention that specifically. Is that even in formal Arabic, they said "Ya ilahi," which means "oh my God" in English, literally. But in informal Arabic, she says literally "oh my God," because a lot of girls or even guys they say "oh my God" like in their day-to-day speech. They're bilingual. And I'm like, that's a nice touch. I like that.
The two snippy women even just put their hands up to their mouths and laugh like your classic anime villainess.
Yeah, there is a lot of that hand acting there. That's really good. And yeah, that she is made to feel shame because she's helping her mom at the cafe and that she couldn't get any other job or what. But that's also a very like universal. I think Fatma and the other people on the show really got like the universal qualities that can translate of a superhero's secret identity through no matter the place. I like that a lot with her and her character. And that's when we get the I only have one sound clip here, but it is of my favorite line of, let's just call this the line of the episode, the mom's reaction.
All that talking must be exhausting. Maybe I should put them out of their misery. Just kidding.
I mean, it's a very anime moment too, of the like sparkle in the eyes when they've decided they're going to kill somebody. I like that a lot too. But she's stirring with a knife. That gave me pause for
Seems
a second.
inefficient to me, but
So that's one of the things I mentioned earlier, is that world logic versus emotional logic. Because emotionally, I love that scene. I didn't think of it twice. Then I saw it again. I'm like, wait a minute, that's a knife. So for me, it worked emotionally because it's funny. Don't think of it. It's a show where like it's like you said, it's a Sailor Moon-esque girl saving the world, and it's awesome. Don't think about like freaking knife stir. So
I mean, I like that randomness of it even more, that she's like, oh, she was stirring with a knife and now she's putting the knife back to continue stirring. Like that's just what's weird about her. Those two are my favorite voice actors in the show too. In English anyway. Natalie Mercer is Moza / Emara, and an actress named Megan Murphy plays Mytha, the mom. And I think, Natalie Mercer is like the most famous of the actors on this, though she hasn't had a lot of, based on her IMDb, not a ton of credits, but you might have heard her voice as an Asari in Mass Effect 2. She played, and a couple other random voices in Mass Effect 2. That's where you might have heard Natalie before. They definitely sound like a mother-daughter there too. And just, I think, Megan as Mytha has a lot of fun with her being like against the stereotype of just a quiet housewife, or because she's like, she runs a business. She's threatening to murder people. She's a tough lady. Like that's Mytha has a lot going on, which I really like about her. And just her cool design of like her cascade of hair coming out of her hijab is a really cool design too. I like that. I also was curious when they show I was going to ask you this, Aziz, but when they show the shot of the mom and Moza with the late father, Mytha and Moza are wearing like the same outfit, like black with gold lining on it. Is there a reason they're dressed the same, or is it just they wore similar thing? Like I wondered if it was like an occasion of some sort.
So first of all, like I said, this is an Emirati show, so I'm not gonna because there's a lot of dialect, a lot of stuff that it's Emirate specific. But I mean, I recognize like a lot of women in like Saudi Arabia where it's like your regular abaya with lining. So it looks like that to me. For me, it looks like that. Maybe it isn't. So I can't really say. So, but like I said, there's a lot of like that's one of the things I liked, is that there's a lot of familiar stuff and unfamiliar stuff and vaguely familiar stuff, if that makes sense. It's I'm just so proud of this product that it's not from us, but from us at the same time. If that makes sense.
Yeah. Emara or Moza gets a text letting her know there's danger afoot from some mysterious person. And then there's also, it's a very standard superhero moment of looking at the picture of a dead relative. Like that's, I like that it hits the beats. So, some could criticize it being like, oh, this is too expected or whatever. But I mean, the UAE has not had their own superhero before. So I'm fine with them hitting some familiar beats of superhero origin stories there. Well, and in the whole season, you don't really get a true origin for Emara. It feels like something there maybe they could save for a future episode if they were to get them. But anyway,
Jeez, spoilers, Hank.
sorry. Everybody should watch the whole thing. I agree. But yeah, so Emara, she runs off in also classic superhero fashion, like, Mom, I gotta go. I'll see you later. And like, where's she always running off to? Like I like those beats. They're really cute to see, especially with the characters in this show. I also just love Moza's like all pink outfit and how the sleeves hang over her hands most of the time. It adds to the kawaii factor of her.
What also adds to the kawaii factor is that when she sighs, it has that same anime style sigh where it goes. And you see it visually, and I love
little
that too.
Mushroom puff of smoke or whatever comes out of her mouth.
Yeah, I like that a lot too. Amara then chases a villain in the nightlife. Again, the skyscrapers of Dubai look so cool to fly around. Like the skyline, I believe they still have the tallest building. I don't think anybody's built a taller one than Dubai yet.
Honestly, I'm not gonna say I don't want to say if it's in Dubai or in Abu Dhabi. So I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I have no, because like I said, I'm very bad with geography, and so like if people think people from outside the Middle East are bad at geography, I'm bad at geography too. But yeah, Burj Khalifa is, I believe, still the tallest building, and somebody in Saudi tried to make the Mile Tower, but that unfortunately didn't happen.
A mile high, Jesus, that's most I would think most Americans know it as the setting for an amazing set piece in Mission Impossible 4. That's probably
the best Mission Impossible.
Yeah, I'd agree. Yeah. Well, and there's also other good Mission Impossible, but that's.
I'm not arguing that. I'm just saying that's the best one. Like I said, I'm diverging with movie talk. Let's continue talking about anime.
But yeah, so Amara chases a guy, and there's another great, just like so many wonderful flourishes of animation here. Amara's like slide on the ground as she lands to chase the guy.
Feels like very Akira.
Yeah, I liked it a lot.
Without a motorcycle.
She's too cool to even need it. And I also like that she kind of flies a little bit Iron Man style. Just all the propulsion comes from her hands.
That's really cool.
And also the villain just runs away, and she should know it's a trap. But you get that Amara is kind of new to this whole thing, not too experienced, so she's learning a lot. And so she gets surrounded, and that's when we meet the villain of the episode, Omar. Which, no offense to him, but I think he is kind of the weakest voice in English. But that really is like the audio quality on him is just not good.
Yeah, it feels like he was recorded differently.
Yeah.
And like his mic is super hot.
Yes.
Like super fried. I don't know like what the recording setup was or how much money they had or whatever, but his voice does sound like he's in a different space.
Well, Aziz in Arabic, how does Omar sound?
I don't know. I can't understand the technical side of it, but for me, I think I focused more on the performance, which was very fun to watch in informal Arabic. Formal Arabic, not so much. Because in formal Arabic, like seeing a villain talking in informal Arabic and trying to be threatening, it's hilarious to me.
I mean, I like the character of Omar a lot because he's like such a scene-chewing, smarmy kind of villain. Like, oh, I see you're here. I like that a lot about him. And also they have a lot of fun with his like frustration and overacting, like especially when Amara threatens him and he just laughs. They're like, like his like bending over laughing is really good animation there too. I liked it a lot. The only not, and I don't even think the voice actor of Omar in English is particularly bad. It's just his mic, the sound quality, like is just, you wish they could have recorded it again, but I think it was probably just a production, like just time thing. Like they couldn't redo it. Which is too bad.
But I mean, speaking of animation, my favorite animation is when her Iron Man fists were stuck to the ground, and like their size somehow increased for an exaggerated effect. And that's what I like. That's again, I'm saying it again. Emotional versus word logic is that to increase the tension, quote unquote, on the episode is that you have to show that she is in mortal danger. Is that you increase the size of the goo that stuck her to the ground, therefore increasing the size of her arm, which I thought was great. It's like a prisoner of their own demise, of her own demise before Lebian saved her, and I just really like that animation.
And when she gets caught, there's a great camera like move behind her. Like,
Yeah.
No, I mean, and that's not easy to do. You can't. You're not literally moving a camera. You're drawing a character from multiple perspectives as the imaginary camera moves. Like, so it adds so much more drama to Emara's predicament too. Then they introduced the bounty that's been put on her head by the mysterious character Solomon, which they set up in later in the series. But the bounty is an interesting situation. At least it explains why she's being attacked by such a concerted group of villains here. Who are all just like kind of nondescript, with anime hair colors too, which I like about that. I mean, same with Moza, her red hair is very anime too, and her mom's like it gets, which in Japanese animation, that's usually a character design choice just because like it's boring if every character has black hair or black or brown hair, you know. It adds a lot more diversity just of design.
Yeah, the color choices in the show are really good. They're very warm, and I like all the lighting changes too.
And then also I like her being like threatened by Omar. Omar is pretty good with his like standard. I mean, he's a very episode 1 of a show kind of villain. Like he's not the big bad, and he'll when he returns in the show, he's more of like just a goof, but he's a good guy to prove yourself against in the first episode. I also really love, again, great like Sakuga, the biting of his hand, like her going from having him grabbing her face to her biting his hand and going like, ooh, they shouldn't have done that. Like I like that a lot. And yes, then Dabi appears. It's kind of, he has like a creepy Batman arrival.
He does,
like,
yeah.
Which is funny because he has like a bright white suit, which you think would hurt his stealthy capabilities, but he sneaks up on all of them.
It's sort of like an ice skating routine too when he first arrives, especially when he cuts up the goop that's holding her hands to the ground.
Oh yeah,
it's really cool looking.
I love how like the feet kind of just knock against like do and then just break the thing off. I like that a lot.
No, I like the fact that the contrast between how freely he moves and then the final reveal in the episode.
Yeah.
That he's actually with somebody in a wheelchair. Dun, dun, dun. It's a very interesting contrast. It's like he's very ballet-like movement.
I was gonna say this action scene that's coming up is so cool. If you're going to watch any part of this, I would watch that at least just to see how well done it is, especially in the scene where Emara is fighting very kung fu movie style, just like one guy after another and just one constant shot.
That's
as they're all
really
approaching
good.
And she's taking them all out. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, it really reminds me of like some of the best fights on the TV series of Cowboy Bebop, of just like of like a static camera and a long take, because like that's a secret of animation too, is you don't do long takes because that's more chances for animation to screw up, or like any one mistake becomes all the more glaring in a longer shot, so it's just a bigger risk of production. And so that's why you don't see it as often. When you do see longer shots like this fight here, it makes it all the more special. And also like just when she's freed, like her I love too the animation of her jump, and then mid motion her right hand turning into like this big fist. It's really cool looking. The whole fight, like it has so much energy to it. The animation is so good there. Like sometimes you don't digital like that. It's sometimes hard to get that kind of like more physical feeling to it when animating in digital.
Mm-hmm. And I noticed the one thing about this episode and the second one that ostensibly the show is made for children. It's a children's show. Lots of guns being pointed at heads, which I think you would not see in an American show.
It is
even though there's gun violence in American shows, of course, but they're very hypocritical. It's like, well, you can have a gun, but don't point it at anyone, or like don't point it at the screen.
I mean, the censorship laws here are very interesting. Like, I don't know the nitty-gritty of it all, but from what I've heard is that as long as you don't talk about quote-unquote sensitive issues, you're good to go to do whatever you want. So It's very interesting.
Interesting. Yeah. I mean, Omar has just a straight up revolver that he points at Dobby's head. Like that's you definitely couldn't do that on a regular kids animated series. No way. I mean, you can't. Well, we talked with our pals on OKKO about this. Like, you can't even have normal fire. It has to be it has to be green fire.
Yeah, that's right.
Because otherwise, if kids saw regular fire, they'd be like, well, what if fire's so cool? I'll light one in my living room right now. But if it's a green fire, then they wouldn't think that. Omar catches Dobby, and there's a cool, just classic superhero villain face-off thing. And again, really good acting on Omar's reaction to getting head butted and flopping around.
And some blood too.
Yeah. And then he explodes out the window. Well, that's why I like you talk about reality, Aziz, and there definitely is kind of spongy reality of sometimes physical threats are just very real, and other times Omar explodes out the window and he will be pretty much fine the next
He
episode.
got team rocketed.
Yes,
So,
exactly.
one thing I noticed and I wanted to ask Aziz about is that when Emara is helping Davi up, instead of grabbing hands, they grab forearms. And I wasn't sure if that was a cultural thing or if it was just an animation choice. Instead of it just felt like
hand-to-hand contact.
Yeah. I was wondering about that because it looked like
I think personally, that's a decision by the creators, I guess. Maybe it is just an animation choice. Maybe it is a cultural choice. I have no idea.
Okay, yeah, I was wondering about that. It just seemed a little it seemed a little unusual for me. That's a weird choice, but again, it's made from a different culture. I wasn't sure, but
Emara's arm cannon can do a lot of damage. That's she really packs a punch. She does.
I guess we didn't talk about Mega Man at all.
Oh, yeah,
I get a lot of Mega Man vibes.
Yeah.
I honestly, I was gonna say at the end, for me, that was that was my intro line that I forgot. It was Z's Mega Man-esque twitching. But
yeah, like the big Mega Buster style arm cannon.
I mean, even with the yellow laser in the middle too. Yeah, no, it definitely has that kind of feel to it, which is again, it kind of can be several things. Its transformative powers are really cool about her thing. Especially it kind of empowers gloves, that she's wearing gloves but makes them cool on top of being a neat accessory. Those we'll see in the second episode, her flesh hand can do that transformation too. So you get to know it's not the gloves, she always can do that. It's just the gloves are an accessory to that. So they save the day. Dobby and Emara kind of have a kind of friendly, cutesy, we are not a team type moment there. There's good comedic tension between them. I like it. Just especially I like that Dobby even jokes you saved my beautiful face. She says, well, you saved mine, so it's equal. I like that bit. Did that come off well in the Arabic too, Aziz?
like I said, all of the Arabic and informal, the voice actors and how they were directed were all excellent. I enjoyed them. Even the cheesiness of the villain Omar, it's great. All the characters, Labian, Emara, everything was just doesn't feel like one of those cartoons that are quote unquote made for kids, where the voice actors are just yeah, I'm just here for a paycheck. It feels like they got actors who love doing this stuff, and you can sense it, you can hear it.
Well, that's good. And then you also get a very classic superhero thing of their conversation is cut short by the cops showing up, who they're not going to be too happy to see vigilantes. Then the Abu Dhabi super cops kind of bust in there, including he doesn't have a line in this episode, but the lead cop is Gisem. He's a relative of Amara's, so it's kind of it actually is a bit like Miles Morales in the Into the Spider-Verse movie.
I think he's called Uncle at one point.
I think so. Yeah. He has a big action scene in one of the later ones, so he's not a Zenigata type of feckless goof that you see in Lupin. He's a good but strong police officer. That's how he's normally portrayed. And as her and as Emara and Dobby fly away, you get just a great hero shot of them flying across the Dubai skyline. It's a really good outro shot for those two. But it's not completely over because we get a very cool anime double agent type twist of oh, you thought Dobby was just this handsome boy hanging out with her? No. He's actually a secret double agent they feel kind of CIA-ish, I have to say. I don't think they're supposed to be read as, I don't know, when the leader of the group is a blonde woman, I feel like it's meant to be read as well, maybe it's my own cultural knowledge of like I read that as an American group. That's what I read them as.
Based on my old animes that I watched like a long time ago, it did feel like a secret group to me
Yes,
personally.
yeah, like CIA, FBI, that kind of thing. Which and that's you can't be sure like are they good, are they bad, what's their deal? That's kind of the question still asked even by the last episode of the season. So, but Dabi is actually Sultan who's working for them, which they really talk about posing and blocking of a shot. Like if you're looking for it, you can see that Sultan's chair is behind him, but they don't make it clear until the final shot of the episode. It almost makes this feel like more Sultan's story than Moza's, just because of this kind of reveal there. And yeah, we get the very like good twist of the reveal that Dabi being differently abled, I guess you'd say, like he doesn't have legs, or it kind of stops above the knee, and he's that's like, oh, his superhero stuff was all done with prosthetics, like super prosthetics, which is a really good twist on super powered characters. I like that a lot. And it gets, that's another diversity thing for the show too, that they have differently abled heroes in the case of Dabi. And I think Emara too. This is kind of spoilers for the last episode, but it is revealed that like at least her right arm in the final episode, it gets broken. And it's the same as Davi. Like it was a robotic arm below the elbow for her. So I'm guessing we asked Fatma about it earlier, but I'm curious what kind of commentary is being made, or on that choice of having the two lead heroes of the show both being, with prosthetic limbs. Ends with a very kind of like Marvel movie move of like the two of them passing each other in their civilian identities and neither of them knowing. Or I actually do think Sultan knows that Moza is Emara.
But like stopping on a quote unquote painted frame of animation is a very classic anime move.
Oh yeah, totally. It's a good final shot to the episode that really lets you know the stakes of it all too. That like he knows who she is. Is he being like actually a triple agent and he's actually on her side? What's the deal? And also, whoa, he's missing legs. That it just leaves you with a lot of interesting questions, which is what you want first episode to do for viewers, to get them hooked with all this intrigue.
Yeah, and it's one of the best things that the episode did is that they don't explain how they're not bogged down by originism. I don't know if that's a word that exists, but I use it every once in a while. Like that's why I don't like half the first movies for a lot of MCU characters, is that they're just bogged down by no, we have to explain every single aspect of their character. I was like, no, I don't give a shit. Just move on.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, are origins ever really that interesting? There's like 4 possible ones, and we've seen them all.
Yeah, we've seen them all so many times. Well, that was one of the smartest things about Captain America Civil War, that they just were like, when we know we're going to do a Black Panther and a Spider-Man movie, let's just fucking show them right here. This is their first appearance. Black Panther can just get to being Black Panther. He already had to see a parent die, so boom, there you go. Like it's
so that's how originism is bad. Like you can fit a fucking entire origin movie in 5 minutes of a superhero movie.
Yeah,
that's how bad origin movies are.
Instead of like padding, if you can take that out, you'd save 40 minutes of a movie. Like that's what in Spider-Man Homecoming, by not wasting time with Uncle Ben, they basically do a double origin. It's like he starts the movie with as Spider-Man, then gets un-Spider-Man, and then gets to earn back the right to be Spider-Man in a second origin, basically.
That's like a video game, exactly.
Yeah, actually, it's kind of a Samus situation of being depowered and earning it all back.
Yeah, but going back to Emara, is that one of the things that I keep saying over and over again is that I'm very happy that we have animation of this quality coming out of the region. And like even if it does have like the same beats as a lot of things, it's like I say this to a lot of my creative friends, is that cliches aren't bad. It's just that if you just use cliches, then it's bad. Like, but Emara has a lot of things that is unique to it, sets it up away from other things that you don't need to, like it's much personally I think it's much better to go the cliched route of having this type of origin story first episode than trying to have this complicated, trying to explain what the region is, blah blah blah. Is that you can just spice in regionisms a little bit every minute or so you just notice them in the background, foreground sometimes, instead of being shoved to your face, which is how you get a lot of international audience. That's how that's how a lot of, that's how the MCU works. That's how like Studio Ghibli works, is that even though there's a lot of Japanese culture in it, is that there's a lot of what's called human elements to it. Is that so it's your story is timeless and regionless, I guess. So you're not bogged down by the specificity of where the cartoon or animation came from.
Yeah, there are many tropes that are universal, and I'm sorry, TV tropes, but not everything is a trope. I was just complaining about this earlier.
Everything's a trope. That's a trope.
No, but I mean, TV
man
trope at
drinking
least explains
coffee.
them. Unlike some channels, something sins. I forgot what it was.
Oh,
but,
Cinema Sins, yeah.
Boo.
it's just
Yeah.
that this is cliche thing. It's like no, that's not.
Yeah.
There are
Well,
at least
whatever. That's a whole
Yeah.
other topic.
I mean,
we
there
can make
are-
an entire podcast episode about.
There are a finite amount of idea categories our brains are capable of. So, yes, like you cracked the code. Congratulations. Many stories share the same elements.
To tell a story, stories are told. Like
The story has a character in it. That's a trope.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I mean I watched. Yeah, I think that's a bad way to judge storytelling. I think, but it's. I mean, we were party to. I feel guilty of it as much as anybody. Just like, oh, real original. You had a character lose his parent or whatever. Like, yeah, it's a story. It's a story. Like, what do you want? Like, you're. Well, and also just like bringing hyper analytic. It's hilarious. I'm saying this, but bringing hyper analysis to something doesn't necessarily like you don't score things by numerical value in storytelling. That's not the best way to judge art, I think.
No, besides, I mean, it's like for me, the best way to judge like animation is the animation. To be honest, the best way to judge a movie is how it's well paced, not like how it adheres to TV tropes or cinema sins or whatever. And from an animation standpoint, from a pacing standpoint, Emara, I'm not gonna give it a full score, still has like some faults in my opinion. But honestly, the first episode gets an easy 8 out of 10 for me, to be honest. Like if I'm gonna give it a numerical score.
Yeah. I think it's a great introduction to the world of Emara, and it's also interesting in the second episode. Well, we won't go piece by piece on that one actually, but on the second episode, I like that it kind of slows things down, and like she doesn't even get in costume in the episode because I think they saw they needed to more establish her civilian identity and learn some more about the characters as regular people outside of their costumes. So without the standard action sequence too.
Yeah, I think I like this one a little more because it was more contained to one location and getting the most out of that one location. And also there were more constraints put on the characters. They couldn't transform or whatever. They had to sort of be sly about their powers.
And also we get some more scenes of Maitha. I like that she kind of just use it when Sultan shows up and says, oh, maybe I could help. She's like, oh, definitely. And she kind of forces him into service, which is almost like too mean to do to a boy in a wheelchair. But he's happy to do it. And then she even just like puts a bow tie on him, like, here, get dressed right now. Like that's. And also I like that you get to see that the cafe is very like international. Like that there's a lot of there's people in hijab, people not in hijabs, people dress like they definitely feel like it being a tourist stop too. Which that's definitely something like that. Dubai really is pushing itself. Through commercials and stuff in America as tourist place. Like, hey, see the Middle East. I had even learned, I didn't know this, is that like it's one of the, for Americans to visit through customs, it's one of the easiest in the Middle East, the UAE is, I have heard.
Yeah, no, because if I'm not mistaken, to make it easier instead of being stuck in customs in the US, they have this special terminal where you do the customs in the UAE. And you just board the plane and you just go.
That's nice. And so it's like kind of you fly first to like Dubai and then you kind of go out from there to other places.
Yeah. But I mean, hey man, that's just border talk. Down with borders. I mean
Yeah. Well, I mean that feels similar like, well, there's not as many direct flights out of say Sacramento as there are out of San Francisco. So that's
or even LA.
Oh yeah, flying within California is the best. I never want to live outside of California to travel to California.
Of course, you would say that.
I like there's some really cool flourishes in the second act the second episode too at the coffee shop. I really love the drawing of when Emara. All the Emara fucking up drawings are great, but I especially love the thumbs up that guy gives her when she drops his plate. Like that's just a good one-off drawing. drawing there. And also that, like, I like too that Mytha knows she's in a story. She's like, oh, I have to leave right now. Bye. And then she just abandons them so she won't be there for the hostage situation. And yeah, I think too, there's last thing I'll say, like, plus to the episode is Moza saves Sultan from being shot. Her grappling hook, which, like you said, Bob, grappling hooks can do anything, which is also a very Batman thing. His grappling hook could do anything too in the old animated series. The way the slow-mo, like, slow-mo's not easy to do in animation either. So pulling him away in slow-mo, showing all the customers closing their eyes from the bullet shot so they don't see that she's Emara. Like, that's really cool. I loved all the animation of that. And also, yeah, Jasem is there. We get a little more of him, the uncle, and I like just the shot of all of them saying goodbye to Sultan at the end of the episode. They're a really cute, like, family shot of like Moza waving goodbye, the mom being nice, and then meanwhile Jasem is just like looking at them very sternly. Though with those sunglasses, it's kind of hard to read tone in his eyes. And then the show ends with also a very anime ending theme as well, like a nice slow pan over painted shots. Like it reminds me of so many classic Japanese productions, I guess.
Yeah, it's like we spent a lot of money on the opening. Now here's one nice piece of art we will pan across for the closing.
As you listen to some nice music. Though I wonder what that, like, girl, I guess that girl is supposed to be Emara. I'm not sure. The girl holding, that's, I guess, the mystery of the ending there. I can't really say. But yeah, they got a really good ending theme too, which again, you need an opening and ending, like, to if you are really telling people to, if it's all about promoting the name of your hero, the ending too is still like says Emara just over and over again. So just so you memorize, that's the name of the main character of this show.
Wait, what's the name of the main character of the show? I forgot.
Emara.
Oh, right.
But yeah, I thought that was a really interesting show. I liked the animation in it. It had some great sakuga, as they say in the anime world, and I think I'd really like to see Fatma get to make some more in the future. I hope she gets the opportunity, but I really liked it a lot. Yeah,
they really made a lot out of their very small staff. I think I saw like 4 credited animators. I don't know how long it took. I think we might have asked that at this point. We're recording this first, by the way, this segment first. But they are short episodes, but so there's a lot of drawings in every one from a very small team. So that was really impressive.
Yeah,
it bears repeating is that I'm very, like I said this over and over again. I'm just saying, I'm very surprised that it came from here. I'm very happy that it came from here, and I'm always happy to support it. Like, I'm always say support the industry. Like when I was growing up, is like, I mean, that was when religious, not extremism, but like more like region extremism, is that what you just support anything from the West. It's like, well, now's our chance to support something from the region, and I'm doing my part in it. Just talking about it, retweeting about it. However many followers I have, or how many followers Talking Simpsons have, and I don't know how much reach it would increase, but I'm happy to talk about, like, I'm more happy to talk about other people's creations than my own, which it's a common thing between creators,
That's very giving of you. Yes. But thank you so much.
Yeah,
Aziz.
thank you, Aziz.
Anything else you want to promote on the internet?
Well, I mean, Hank, I think you know this, but I'm a filmmaker.
Yes.
I just, in the last 6 months I've directed 3 movies.
Ooh.
One of them was premiered at the Saudi Film Festival, and that was awesome. We won the best audience award. Technically, it's the best poster. That was awesome.
That's great.
Yeah, and then we premiered also at the festival at the UAE, where Emara is from, and it's great, like, just seeing this reaction from people live, being in the audience, just seeing people clapping in the middle of the movie, no less, and just enjoying that just gives me a lot of joy. And my movie is called, I forgot to say the name of my freaking movie. That's great. It's called Red Velvet.
Okay.
And it's a short, and I submitted it to about 30 festivals, and let's hope they, go, and a bunch of them are in North America, and maybe it's near San Francisco if you ever get the chance to see it. I hope.
Well, congratulations, Aziz. That's a big achievement.
Thank you. Oh, it is, and Hank knows. Well, how long have we known each other, Hank? 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5 years.
And he knows. And he's known me as a guy who just wants to make movies, and now I'm making movies. Hallelujah.
Yeah, no, you've been working towards this a while, so I'm really proud of you. That's great work.
Thank you so much, Hank.
Well, no, and thank you, Aziz, so much for your support too.
Thanks again to Aziz for being being part of this podcast and for recommending Emara. Aziz is one of our top level patrons, which is why he gets to choose an episode and also be on the show. And if any of those slots open up, and they rarely do, they're very limited, we're sure to tweet them out. But usually before we can even tweet about them, they're taken because you people are all watching us, and we like that.
So yes, but if the next time it opens up, you can check for yourself and support us at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
That's right. If you want to help the show and get every episode of this podcast and Talking Simpsons 1 week ahead of time and ad-free, go to patreon.com/Talking Simpsons, and for the low cost of just $5 a month, you'll have access to all of our paywalled podcasts we've been doing for almost 2 years now. That includes all of our limited miniseries and specials, including the currently unfurling Talk King of the Hill. That's the entire first season of King of the Hill done with our podcast treatment. It's been a lot of fun, and that is all available behind the paywall for $5 a month at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons. And Henry, we have a special $10 tier for the premium patrons who want extra long podcasts every month. What is that?
It is our What a Cartoon Movie. If you like me and Bob talking about an animated television show, or online in this case, thing, if you'd want to hear us talk even longer about an animated feature film, we do that on What a Cartoon Movie, only available to our $10 and up patrons. We have over 18 hours of content you could listen to right now, including our most recent one, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Plus, in May, if you sign up at the $10 level, you'll get to hear our one for Aladdin, the Disney classic, not the live-action one.
Which will never be a classic, even if it gets old.
I mean, look, it's not out yet. Maybe every clip we see are the worst parts of the movies, and there's better parts of it.
Or they're the best parts, and we're in trouble.
Oh, boy, yes, yeah. But anyway, the $10 level, you can hear that and all of our previous $10 premium content at patreon.com/Talking Simpsons.
So thanks for listening. I've been one of your hosts, Bob Mackey. You can find me on Twitter as Bob Servo. My other podcast is Retronauts every Monday and occasionally on Friday. Please go to retronauts.com or look for Retronauts in your podcast device, and you'll find it and listen to it, please, and maybe subscribe to it. Why don't you, Henry? How about you?
You can follow me on Twitter at HENEREYG when new things go live, and on the Patreon or on the free feeds, I am sure to tweet about it. So you can follow me there, HENEREYG.
Thanks so much for listening, folks. We'll see you next week with 2 classic Daffy Duck Looney Tunes, and those will be Duck Amuck and the Great Piggy Bank Robbery, and we will see you then.
عالمنا بحر عميق فيه العدو فيه الصديق فيه الشر حر طليق يمسك طوق الغريق في المدى ضوء بريق للباحثين عن الطريق بالعزيمة بالإصرار سننهض رغم الدمار مهما حاول الأشرار الفوز دوما للأفكار إمارة رمز التحدي تدافع عن الضعفاء لا تسمح بالتعدي على حق الأبرياء إمارة شجاعة جسارة إمارة رمز المثل إمارة شعاع منارة وطريق للأمل إمارة شجاعة جسارة إمارة رمز المثل إمارة شعاع منارة تحيي فينا الأمل إمارة.
You saved my beautiful face!
And you saved mine, so let's call it even.
Does this mean we're a team?
No, not even close.
We're a team!
What? No, we're not.
Dobby and Emara, super team!
Oops, gotta go.